And we're recording.
Yay!
Hello. All right, so I am Mason.
I'm Sam! And you know it's good!
When it starts with Raikantopini.
Raikantopini! I feel
Sam?
shame. I feel nothing but shame every time we do this because it's always me who's behind.
Well, why don't you start it next time?
No, because I can't, because you're better at this than I am.
I don't think that's true.
I think it is. I think that we both have skills, and your skill is to open the show.
Okay. Also, Before we get into it, to make this easier on myself when creating a thumbnail, I'm going to make a few faces to choose from now. Otherwise, I really hate doing this whole scrubbing through, listening to my voice. It's not fun. So, I don't know about this one. Or, oh my God, this show did that. I can't believe they went there. And, what? So, okay, now I have 3 options. Now I have 3 thumbnail later on. Awesome.
Okay. So this week we're talking about 2 shows. The first show is Where Your Eyes Linger, which is a show that we both watch on Viki. And then the next show is Because of You, which is another show that we're both watching on Viki. And the reason why we're doing 2 shows this week is because we are doing mini series. So these are series that are very short length in episodes, but they're also short length in terms of as many episodes as they have. So Where Your Eyes Linger tends to be about 10 minutes per episode, and it had 8 episodes. So it's about the same length as like a feature film. Because of You had 10 episodes, and I believe each episode was 15 minutes, but if you take off like the beginning title sequence and the ending title sequence, you're still looking at about 10 minutes. So 100 minutes altogether. Again, maybe a longer feature film, but not really. So it seemed like it would make more sense for us to talk about both of them together than doing a show dedicated to each one.
Right.
So we're going to talk about Where Your Eyes Linger first, because it is the series that ended the most recently, and also because I don't think we both have as much to say about Where Your Eyes Linger. I have a lot of positive things to say about the show, but it is a Korean show, and I'm just going to be upfront with you. Korean shows tend to not be very dialogue heavy, or at least the dramas that I normally watch, and this was not an exception to the rule.
Right.
All right, so let's do the plot synopsis. Mason?
So it starts with these 2 characters whose names I don't remember, even though I watched it yesterday. One of them is like, typical rich boy. The other one is like his bodyguard. They've been best friends for like 15 years. They're in high school. I'm not sure where in high school they are. Maybe senior year? I don't know. They're in high school together. And the pretty boy, the rich boy, and his kind of bodyguard, they both like each other, but neither of them are willing to say it. And so when the bodyguard guy kind of starts hanging around this girl, it becomes a point of conflict for them. And it's just sort of about how they both like each other and how they have to sort of they're like pulling teeth from each other, trying to pull the feelings out. So it's sort of a who's gonna confess first scenario.
Good synopsis. So Where Your Eyes Linger, I actually did write down the characters' names, but I'm giving them nicknames, which is a practice I haven't done in a really long time. This is the only way I was able to get through the Produce series. So the nicknames I have for the rich kid is Whitney, and the nickname I have for the bodyguard is Kevin, because I'm thinking Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner from The Bodyguard. And so I will be referring to both of the lead characters as Whitney and Kevin. Follow me on this.
Okay,
So,
I've never seen this movie, so.
You don't have to see the movie. You've heard the soundtrack. I Will Always Love You. It's classic. But anyway, Whitney is kind of a jerk. Like, we start the show with Whitney running away from a gang of boys who want to beat her up because she's dating all these girlfriends of other people. Which, I mean, yeah, that's kind of dickish. But all of a sudden, the bodyguard, who's like just always been there the whole time, chilling out in the background, not really causing much of a fuss, is approached by this girl. And Kevin's like, I don't want to date her. And Whitney's like, yeah, you should do it. Dating is fun. It's a great time. And then all of a sudden was like, well, okay, if you're going to push me in that direction, I'm going to do it. And he starts doing it. All of a sudden, Whitney's like, wait a minute. I didn't mean like to seriously date. I meant like, you know, maybe type text messages to each other, not actually sit in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And watching the jealousy, I have to give it to the actors. I think emotion-wise, even though it wasn't big emotion, you felt the tension every scene where they were together.
Yeah, the acting was definitely a bonus. I think every actor did a really good job in this show.
Speaking of Produce, the lead actor who plays Whitney, he was actually on Produce. I don't remember him very well from Produce, but he was actually on Produce, and I think he made it to maybe the second round before he was eliminated.
Was it, what group is he in now? Or is he not
he's
in a
not
group?
in a group now. He's just acting.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not in a group.
Was he on Produce or was he on Produce X?
He was on X.
Oh, so we saw him recently.
Yeah, like in the last couple of years at least.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
so
he made
I
no
think
impression because I watched every episode of the show.
Okay, there's 100 trainees. How in the fuck am I supposed to be expected to remember every single name and face from that show? It's impossible. But I think this was a really smart move on his part, because there are so many people who left that show, even people who won, who left that show and are now like a nameless face amongst a group that was formed to try to capitalize on the show. Whereas he's like, you know what? Music is not the route. I'm going acting. And I think this, if nothing else, was the perfect sizzle reel for him to go into other projects with, because he gave you all of the range.
Right.
Yeah. So I actually liked him better than the bodyguard character. I found myself, whenever I'd watch them together, he was where my eyes lingered.
But
I love a good mom joke. But yeah, I think that he did a really good job of being like very cocky and like, you know, I do what I want because I'm rich and I can have whatever I want. But at the same time, in the moments where he was very vulnerable, I was like, oh, I hurt for this baby. Especially anytime he did a scene with his dad. Those were the scenes when I was like, I just want to hug you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like especially the scene with his dad after he has been abducted and forced to go to England. So getting further into the plot, and by the way, it's always spoiler town around here. Get used to it. We're a dumpster, everything's spoiled. But he confesses his love to his bodyguard, Kevin. And Kevin's like, you know, the best time of my life is when I didn't have to be your bodyguard when you went to Japan. And so he's like, okay, well then you're fired, get the fuck out. And Kevin is ready to do that. And he goes to meet up with Jaime. But Jaime's like, listen, I've been watching you too, and I'm not stupid. I may seem oblivious, but I'm not stupid. You guys are in love with each other. Go after the one you love. So he gets a couple of milk carts and he's ready to go back and be like, I'm sorry, I actually love you. I'm ready to be a man about it. And young Master Whitney is gone. And it turns out that his dad has abducted Whitney because of Pilhyun, the stupidest person in the entire fucking universe. I don't understand how he thought it was a good idea for him to go to his dad, who works at the same company as Whitney's dad, and be like, hey, I saw your son making out on the front lawn with his bodyguard at school. Like, of course, dad's going to be furious.
Right.
So he's abducted by his dad, and he's in front of his dad, and his dad's like, you have to go to England. And he's trying so hard to take the blame. He's like, it wasn't that the bodyguard kissed me. I kissed him. It's a one-sided love, which that's what he really believes to be the truth at that moment. And the dad's like, you're weak just like your mom. And the way he does is like, on the one hand, he wants to defend his mother, but at the same time, like, he's just so weak in front of his dad because his dad holds all the cards. I'm like, oh man, this is a moment that I could see a show being built on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Moments like that are where the show really shines.
Oh, absolutely. Like, a lot of the day-to-day stuff was like, okay, I get it. You guys walk very close to each other. I get it. You guys like to wrestle. I get it. You guys like to stare lovingly in each other's eyes and sleep together. But this right here is where the meat and potatoes is for the show.
Yeah.
And then, like, when Kevin goes to the dad's house because he's looking for Whitney and has to fight his way through every bodyguard in that house, on the one hand, it's completely unrealistic and unbelievable. Like, somebody in that household has got to have a gun. But on the other hand, I get the feeling that the dad told the bodyguards, don't really hurt him, just run him through the gauntlet, because once he gets here, I'm going to use him to psychologically manipulate my son.
Right.
Because at first I'm like, why would he be able to, like, single-handedly take on 3 or 4 different dudes? And I really think it was just because the dad's like, I don't want him killed.
Right.
I need to use him in order to get my son to get to England.
Mm-hmm.
And so those were some really great moments for me. But can I just say, as much as I'm really glad about the way this show ended, I had a little bit of the blue balls when they got back to the house. So the son says, Dad, I'll go to England. I'll do whatever the fuck you want, but just give me one more night with my bodyguard, please. And the dad's like, whatever. So they go back to the house and they spend the night, like, not talking to each other. And I was just like, no, you're supposed to spend the night fucking the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And go to the airport with weak knees and sore backsides. That's what's supposed to happen here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I'm really glad that they ended the show with a kiss because it was needed. But at the same time, I'm just like, the fuck, man?
Yeah.
You got your ass whooped by all these bodyguards. He's willing to take himself to England to protect you. And then y'all get back to the house and can't talk to each other?
Mm-hmm.
Korea, I know you're not used to happy endings, but that's not how these work.
I did not like that. And honestly, can we real quick talk about that kiss? Because it was terrible.
Yes, we can talk about the kiss.
It was bad. It was bad. They barely touched, and it was like, okay, we're done.
Yeah, and I get why it was like that. Again, like I said earlier, for the guy who plays Whitney, this was his kind of debut into acting and trying to get more jobs. I believe he signed with Fantasio, which is a great label to be signed to if you're trying to act.
Right.
Fantasio's got some really great actor idol people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that they couldn't let him go whole hog on a gay happy ending because they are going to try to market him to do straight stuff, because at the end of the day, the straight market is a much larger market, and it's a market that he can live in a lot longer.
Right.
So, I mean, I get it, but it still sucks that it's just like, okay, you can go gay, but don't go too gay.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think the show, like, didn't make use of its time well. It's a short show. It's probably an hour and a half total. And so I don't think there's a good complaint that, like, oh, it was really short, so they couldn't do everything. It's like, no, that's a movie length. If you can communicate a whole story in a movie, you can do it in a fucking hour and a half TV show too. So I just think that, like, there was a lot of time wasted on shit that wasn't really necessary or was so small in the grand scheme of things. Like, there was a whole episode dedicated to, like, a dodgeball thing. And it's like, I didn't need the fucking dodgeball scene. It was a solid 5 minutes of an episode. And it's like, all right, we can cut this out. Like, the episode is basically, like, it's showing that the bodyguard is protecting this girl instead of his friend. And it's like, this is a really stupid, childish, and unimportant way to show this idea of just, like, school gym dodgeball. Like, and then the pretty boy gets hit in the head and he's like, how could you not protect me? And it's like, this is dumb. This is, like, the worst idea you could have gone with for this scene. You know, I get it, show, don't tell, but could you show me something better? I also feel like the dialogue, I mean, I don't speak Korean, but I feel like the way it was translated, it made it seem like everyone was talking in circles constantly, and I don't think you have really a lot of time for that in a show like this. Like, there's not a lot of time. If you're going to have dialogue, every line needs to be important and build up to something, but, like, because a lot of the scenes didn't build up to anything and were nothing was really explained that I felt like needed to be explained. I don't think the setup for the show is very clear. Like, I do think we need to know how old they are. The ending, so kind of what happened the last 3 years. Like at the end of the last episode, there's a time skip for 3 years later, which they don't tell you at the beginning. Like, they tell you like midway through the time skip, you're like, by the way, this is 3 years later. And it's like, I feel like you threw me into this thing that I didn't know what was going on for. So the time skip was kind of weird because the pretty boy goes off to England. Whitney's in England, and he's doing school there. I don't know if I think he's in university now. Don't know what university, if he went to a university in England. I don't know what age they were when this started, so I don't really know where we are with that either, which I do think is important. If they're freshmen, it's one thing. If they're seniors, it's a different vibe.
There's no way they could be freshmen. They look super grown.
They were probably seniors. I'm going to assume that they were seniors, that they were like entering their senior year maybe. So juniors and then entering their senior year. So it skips 3 years, and it's like, so it's not really, so it seems like Whitney was in contact with everyone else except for the love of his life, which is weird. And it's like, why weren't they talking? Was it like, it hurts too much? And then like,
no, I didn't feel that way. I felt like it was the dad. I felt like the whole psychological mind game with like, I will ruin your bodyguard if you don't do what I say. I could see Whitney being like, okay, I'm not going to contact Kevin because my dad is probably monitoring what I'm doing, and it could bring repercussions on him if my dad finds out we're together. So I'm going to give him radio silence for about 3 years, and hopefully it'll get my dad to ease up and realize we're not together anymore, and then I can go back.
Yeah, but that's not, it's like, that's like, you can infer that, but I don't think there's any like good contextual evidence to fully support that. Like, I think both of us could find textual evidence to support both of our claims. And I think that's a problem, is that the show didn't give us enough to tell which one it was or why. So it leaves me feeling a little empty about that. And then at the end, Bodyguard's going to go to Japan to try and forget about the other guy. Is he in college? I don't think so. How did he get the money? Because it's weird. Like, he was working at this, so the girl that he was kind of seeing, Yemi, her mom owns, I think it was a tteokbokki place, like a rice cake place. And he was working there, but like, it didn't seem like he was getting paid, because at the last episode, when he's about to leave, the mom's like, here, take this money as payment for what you've done as payment for working here. And it's like, hold up, was he not getting paid the last 3 years? So
I didn't feel it that way. I felt like it was more like you brought in a significant crowd that we didn't have before you started working here. Cause like the first episode, when he takes him to the rice cake shop, there's no one there.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it as her being like, you gave this place a boost, so here's like a little bit more money, because we wouldn't have had the foot traffic if it wasn't for you working here.
It didn't come across that way to me, which just proves a problem with the show, honestly. If you can't tell, I just think the show is super meh, honestly. Like, it wasn't the worst show I've ever seen, and it was cute and it was fine, but it's also like, I think this is really harsh, but like, in school, I was always taught the worst thing about art is you either want to make it really good or really bad. Because at least if it's really bad, it's memorable. When it's just okay, when it's just banal and boring, when it's forgettable, that's when it's the worst. And I feel like that's this show, is it's just forgettable. And it's just boring. And I'm still confused at the ending. Do they go to Japan? Are they staying in Korea? I don't know. Well,
it's obviously an open ending. Like, it is definitely an open ending, but I don't think I felt that way. And I think maybe it's because prior to watching Thai Boys Love, I watched a lot of K-drama. Like, K-drama was a big part of my kind of diving deep into Hallyu. And so to me, a lot of the things that you're saying are unsaid or inferred very much operate under the same scope that K-drama has operated under. So I didn't necessarily see it as like, oh, they didn't give me enough information here. It really very much felt the way that K-drama feels when I watch it. Even shows that have much more time and have longer length. But I will say that the parts where I agree with in terms of time wasted, I think a lot of the time that was spent not talking was wasted, only because I get that you want to build up tension, and sometimes tension can be found in silence. But it also kind of seemed like they don't have a tender relationship. That was the part that was missing for me. Like the bodyguard, very much you could tell that they're friendly, but you couldn't really see a lot of the tenderness between them until the very end. And even then you're like, well, where did this kind of come from? Because it doesn't seem that way, especially like the very first episode when Whitney was being chased by the guys who were mad, and then goes back to school and is like, oh, we had a fight, so now we're friends. It seemed like Whitney was like emotionally stunted. And so I don't know kind of what it is about Whitney that had Kevin so in love. And that is what I would have used these silences to build up to. Those are the moments where I would have been like, well, what is it about Whitney that you're in love with Kevin? Besides just the fact that you guys sleep together every night and you become close because of, you know, close quarters. So that's what I would have looked for. But I think there was a lot of good in this series, a lot of places that definitely could build up for better boys love from Korea moving forward. One thing that this show had that I have not seen in any of the shows that we've watched so far is a soundtrack that I want to buy.
Oh yeah, that ending song, give it to me. I need it. What is it called? Blurry? I don't know what it is. I don't know who sang it, but I need that song.
I think it's by somebody named Kim Jo. I think I saw that on a forum somewhere.
Wait, was it Kim Jo from like Nine Muses?
I think so.
Really? Good for her. Good for her.
Yeah, so like the soundtrack, I was listening the whole time I was watching this show. There were moments where I was actually distracted from the action on the screen because I'm like,
blurry. Blurry. Blurry.
And I mean, even in the moments where there was like a non-vocal song, just like the backing music was like very groovy room KR&B-ish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, I was waiting for somebody to go, groovy. I was totally waiting for that. But yeah, I was thinking to myself, like, this definitely is something that I could see other boys' loves building on, like making a more engaging soundtrack. Okay, so it's not a secret. A lot of boys' love productions are cash strapped. There's not a lot of money there, and they use a lot of royalty-free music, or they'll use the same song over and over in order to fill in the gaps. And so far, before this, the best song that I've seen in boys' love is that theme song from My Engineer. Every time that came on, I'm like, oh, this means we're in love right now. You know?
Really? That one?
I don't know. Every time they would go somewhere in here, do, 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 do. I'm like, oh, we're about to have a good time. I can feel it. The music came on.
That's interesting. I think my favorite one, well, okay, so next week we're talking about Given. And that's actually a musical, like that one is based off of a rock band. So there is like good original music in that show. So I would say that one has my favorite like boys love music. But if we're talking about like a theme song, I would say Tharn Type actually I think is a really good theme song. Copyright claim. They're gonna be like,
if they copyright claim us not saying words and not having actual instruments, I will fight YouTube. There's no fucking way. We were not that close. But yeah, like the music, all of the background music, chef's kiss. It was so perfect. And I would love to see a Thai boys love have a more modern musical approach to their show. I think Together probably was about as tight as we're going to get because of the usage of all the songs from
Scrub.
So yeah.
I mean, I definitely think that there's good part. I think Where Your Eyes Linger, it's like, it's not horrible. And I think there's good parts. I just think it could definitely be better if it was stretched out as a longer series. Because I don't think they knew how to adjust this story to just a 10 episodes and make it, like I didn't feel fulfilled after watching it. If that makes sense.
You are a smooth motherfucker, because that was an excellent segue to the next part of our review here. So instead of us giving...
I didn't finish talking about what I liked.
Go ahead.
Like, I really love the general concept of, like, these two characters. The one's, like, this really bubbly, outgoing, pretty boy. The other one's kind of like his bodyguard. And they're, like, best friends, you know, and we sleep in the same bed. And, you know, sometimes we shower together. And every now and then he eats my asshole. But no homo. Like, love that. That's fun. I loved Hyemi, too. I thought she was a really good female character in the sense that she didn't, like, actively try to break them up or anything or, like, cause conflict. She was like, I like this guy. I'm kind of a weird girl. Like, her character introduction in the show was she walks on set and then full open mouth sneezes at the camera. And I was like, she's the one. I like her because she's just a weirdo. And, like, she never does anything out of malice. She's just kind of like, well, I like this guy, and, oh, well, yeah, I guess they do really like each other. So, you know, I'm going to step back. And it's like, I respect you, girl. But yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you do better? Because I think that's where you're leading.
Okay, so we talked about how this would be vastly improved by being a longer show. Mm-hmm. So I've got the entire plot in my mind already of how it could be longer. Okay. First thing we need to do is we need to find out what happened to Whitney's mom, because we're not certain if the mom got a divorce from the dad or if the mom is dead, but I'm leaning on the side of the mom being dead. So I'd like to see more kind of interaction about, like, what life was like when the mom was home and how her and the dad had issues, what happened around the time that the mother was no longer involved in the son's life, because part of his excuse for hugging Kevin at night is because it reminds him of his mother. So how long was his mother in his life before she disappeared? So I'd like to see more background on that. I'd like to see some more kind of in the boardroom company stuff, because Pillion tells his dad that he saw Whitney and Kevin making out on the front lawn at the school. Why would he report that to his dad, and then why would the dad report that to the father? So I feel like there's some stuff going on behind the scenes at the company that would also make for some really intriguing stuff storyline-wise as well. We don't get the impression that Whitney has any brothers or sisters, so you kind of wonder, like, if the dad's so disappointed with Whitney and just thinks he's such a loser and weak and everything else, what's his alternative? Like, who's he going to have take over the company if his son can't do it? So I'd like to see some more about that. The bodyguard, we don't know where he came from. We don't know if he's got anybody in his life, because it's never indicated he does. And when did he end up in Whitney's life? At what point in their childhoods did they see each other and they end up together? What caused the dad to pick this young man in particular to be his son's bodyguard / live-in person? So that's another story I want to see, is, like, was he, like, the top student at the Taekwondo Academy, and the dad's like, you will do, and then pulls him out away from his home and everything he's known to be his son's bodyguard. And, like, the first time they meet, Whitney goes and grabs Kevin's ear and, like, you're my new best friend. And then watch them grow together. Like, that could stretch out into more episodes. And I would love to see that, because K-dramas are really good about giving you a backstory when they're, like, extended for the 12. So I think that would be really good to see. Also, like you were saying, we don't know where he's going to school in England, what he's doing in England. So I would like to see more elaboration on the plan. Like, the dad wants him to make good grades, go to England. What do you want your son to do? Like, what's the final goal of your son being normal or being who you want him to be? And so I'd like to hear more about that as well. And then also, I want to see the dad, like, choke on a chicken bone and die. So I think if you were to put all of that into a series, that would be really, really good. And also, like, introduce a couple more friends. Pillion had the potential to be a really good third wheel to kind of the friendship group of Kevin and Whitney, but he had his own friends. And so he never was really a big part of them. And I think it would have been nice to build more friends around these two. That way they both have people to go to when they're having emotional conflicts with each other.
Right.
because I even though I like Jaime a lot, I think it's kind of unfair for her to be that counsel for a man that she had feelings for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it takes a brave woman to be able to step outside yourself and be like, I'm not going to try to influence this to be a positive for me. I'm just going to give you the truth. But I think it would have been nice for him to have like another friend of some sort that he could have been like, okay, well, you know, this is the reason why I said I don't like you when he first confronted me with his feelings. That's another place where we want to see a little bit more like, did you reject his feelings because you feel like you're not good enough? Did you reject his feelings because you knew his dad would react this way if he found out about the two of you being together? So some more backstory about why you would reject him, and when you know that he's being completely transparent and vulnerable with you. Because you don't really get that.
Yeah, well, because that all happened, like, the confession and like the refusal from the bodyguard, and then his later confession happens like an hour later in like the time of the show. Like, it happens in the same night, so it's kind of weird. And I think the one thing I'd add to what you said is I would draw the series out over like a longer period of time, because it seems to take place in like a week. I don't like that. I thought it made it seem like, even though like it was slow pacing, but it also felt fast because it was, all of this shit took place in a week. And I feel like that's a lot, you know?
So, not really self-promo because I don't own the story anymore. I wrote a story a few years ago called Falling at the Fair. And there was a scene I had in the story. It was a yaoi story. I had a scene in the story where the two male characters were fairly young men, and they were talking about, you know, what it'd be like to date, because neither one of them have dated. And so they're like, you know, I'm sure I'll be a great kisser. And the other one's like, no, you're not, because you've never kissed anybody. He's like, well, I've been practicing. Like, oh yeah, well, show me how good you are. And then they kiss each other. And then there's nothing that happens sexually or anything else between them for many more years later. And it was kind of like meeting each other when you're young, growing up together kind of story. I would love to have seen, before we got to kind of the present that we're in now, kind of how the bodyguard had to deal with Whitney constantly dating all of these girls. Like, when did that cycle start? How is he dealing with that? And I think it would have been cute, like, as them kind of growing up together, and the bodyguard being kind of a quieter character, and Whitney being more of the outgoing kind of I do what I want character, being like, hey, I want to start dating girls, but I want to be the best kisser because I don't want them talking smack about me. You have to let me practice with you. And it shows them like practicing with each other, and the bodyguard's like, I haven't had any romantic feelings, but my romantic awakening is happening at this very moment. And then like the next day, like, I found a girlfriend. And then just, so I know it's kind of cruel, but I still think I would have enjoyed a scene like that too if we were to drag the series out a little bit longer.
I agree. Sidetrack, was your story a shiny story?
Yes, it was.
Who was it?
It was Minho and Key.
That sounds right.
I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's a story called Falling at the Fair, and they meet at a state fair when they're both like, I think 11 or something, and they start their friends all the way through high school, and stuff happens between them. Minho starts dating CL, and of course Key's like, fuck. And at one point Key starts dating TOP from Big Bang, and again it's just like,
what is this SMYG fanfiction?
You know, I wrote it many years. I wrote it before I started doing YouTube, and when I started doing YouTube, my biases were Shiny, Big Bang, and then my female bias group was To Anyone, and so I just merged the things I like. But I was very kind to everybody except for Top.
Yeah.
Top, I was not very kind to, but only because he had to be the villain, but he wasn't even like a super villain. It was more like he wasn't prepared to come out to his family because he was actually born in Korea and had gone through enlistment and stuff, and he was never really prepared to be out to his family, and he was like, well, I'm not gonna be your dirty secret.
Right. I'm just surprised you picked CL for Minho.
I'll tell you why I picked CL for Minho. I picked CL for Minho because CL at the time was the female celebrity that reminded me the most of Key. And so in the story, I had Minho choose a girl who he subconsciously picked because she reminded him of Ki, because he didn't realize he had feelings for Ki.
Hmm.
And I think if you think about it, that wasn't an off-brand choice. Like,
I think I just would have gone with Dara. Sorry, I'm like reading your story. I'm very interested in this now. Because you guys don't know.
I wouldn't have gone with Dara. Dara wouldn't have worked for me because Dara's to the opposite of Ki. Like, CL's very kind of upfront and brash. Ki is very upfront and brash. I thought that their eye shapes were very similar. And I wanted to be kind of heavily implied that him going out with CL was because he really wanted Ki, but he wasn't able to intellectualize that fact. So instead, he transferred those emotions to someone who very much reminded him of Ki and made him feel like he was, like that love he had that he maybe couldn't express, I can express it with this person because this is the appropriate match.
I want to read this now because I love Top. And CL is my ultimate, so, I stand.
I'll send you a link.
But
anyway, totally off track. Where Your Eyes Linger, for me, gets a solid 6.5.
Yeah, I give it a 6.5. It's not a good rating, though.
I think 6.5 is decent, especially compared to like the length and how much we actually got. Like what we did get, there were some really good bones there. It just wasn't fleshed out enough. And I think that's something that we can both agree on. But like, give it 12 episodes, give it another 30 minutes each, actually talk about some of the stuff that I think should be included and that you thought should be included. And it would easily creep into like 8 territory.
Yeah. 6.5. 6.5. I'd give it 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So next we're going to talk about Because of You. And I have to say, every single time I thought about the name of this web series, I all of a sudden became Kelly Clarkson. Because
of you. Now we're getting copyright strike.
They're not good. We don't sound like Kelly Clarkson. That is a generous judgment.
I think I'm a... No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I like Because of You a lot. Like of the shorter series that I've watched, and I've watched a few now. Like I watched both The Novelist and The Pornographer on Viki. I've watched Ingredients on YouTube. I'm currently watching Game Boy, which is a Filipino series. This has got to be the most action-packed, informational-packed short series I have ever watched. To the point that like when the last minute of the last episode air, I'm like, you cannot be serious. Like on the one hand, you've given me a lot here, but on the other hand, I could do like 20 more of these.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a show that it felt like it was part of an hour length, like it was 10 episodes, each an hour long, like history. And then they were like, we need to make a super cut of each episode. And then they cut it down. And I'm like,
that is exactly it. It was like watching a super cut. There was not, just like you were saying how you felt like there was a lot of wasted time in Where Your Eyes Linger, there was not a second of wasted time in this show.
No. Everything was important. But that's kind of why I liked it. I don't know. Like, I think Because of You is just like, it's one of those shows where it's like, I really, really like it. But every time I watch it, I'm like, why wasn't this longer? It pains me because it's good. The dynamics are so strong with each character. It's just,
and the plot was so good.
It's juicy, and I like that they didn't spend a lot of time with, ooh, will they, won't they, with the two characters while they weren't sure if he was a brother yet or not. And they were like immediately, nope, he's not like biologically related.
Yeah, like the whole subplot about are you my brother started in episode 1, ended in episode 5. There were 10 episodes, so they got rid of it super quick.
Yeah, I was like, whew, good, we are out of here.
Yeah. So plot synopsis: shall you or shall I?
You shall.
Okay. So we have the Huan family, which, please forgive me, I am not very familiar with the Taiwanese Chinese language. I have no pronunciation skills at all. I've actually got nicknames for all of the brother couples, but I'm going to try to do original names first. Do not shoot me. I'm trying my best. So the Hyun banking family consists of Chairman Wei Si and his sons Chang, his son Dao, and his son Ping. And he gets a phone call from a young man saying, "You've lost and you'll never hear from me again." And he's like, "Who is this?" Because I guess it's like a trigger, because he calls this phone number that no one else has access to. And he's like, "My mom told me to call you." And immediately the chairman's thinking, "Oh my God, I have a fourth son out there." So he enlists his sons to try to find this boy, find out more information about him, and, find out, is this my long lost son, and how can I take care of him, since I obviously lost track of his mother. And the oldest son, who is Chang, he realizes that he actually knows this guy, because when he first came to Taiwan to see his dad, he got jumped by his uncle's thugs, and this is the guy that helped him out.
Mm-hmm.
So they do the DNA test after some very serious coercion and find out it's not the dad's son. But the oldest son is like, "I still want to be very close to you." And so he engages in kind of a romancing scheme. Because he's like, "If you don't want to be my brother, you can be my lover." And so it's just fun to watch, like, the last few episodes, because it really is just about them, like, will they, won't they, you're fighting this, but you're not really fighting this, teasing and stuff like that. And then the other parts of the story have to do with the other two brothers and their relationships. So the middle brother, Dao, has a roommate who he is extremely possessive of. And in a lot of ways, when I first saw the show, I'm like, oh, they're already dating. And then we get to, like, I think episode 9, and it's like, wait a minute, y'all aren't dating?
Yeah.
Y'all were just friends the whole time?
Uh-huh.
But, like, the relationship is very much like, you are mine, you belong to me, you are my property. And about, the roommate being like, actually, no, I'm not your property, and thank you for saying that, because it establishes that you don't think of me as an equal person to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have a power dynamic there that has to be settled. And then the youngest son, he's just kind of like, I'm hot, I go to college, I like my best friend, and that's it. Like, there's really not much to go on. And, like, the best friend doesn't realize that, like, they are mutually crushing each other. He kind of feels like the sidekick. And then when it's finally revealed that they are mutually crushing on each other, then he's like, oh, well, then let's get it. So, yeah, happy endings, dinner table filled with family and boyfriends and good times. Except for the dad. The dad can go fuck himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this show. So I named the couples differently. I know that you're not going to be able to follow this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. So the first couple with the oldest son and the could be, could not be son, I named K-pop and Stan. Because the oldest son actually used to be in a K-pop group called Kino, which
okay.
Go ahead.
Sam sent me one of their songs. It's called Awake, I think.
It's called Actually.
Actually, it actually kind of slaps. Like, like the video is terrible. They can't dance. It's super low budget, but like the song was there, and it's in like that 2010, 2011 era of K-pop where it's super auto-tuned. Like that song is like, if you were to boil down the essence of K-pop in 2011, it's that song. And honestly, I was kind of here for it. Like, I was like, this is reminding me of all the old hits. It's like, Tiara made their name off of catchy dance music and auto-tune. And this group was gonna do the same.
Oh, it was so auto-tuned.
It's honestly a good song. Like, check it out.
You have to watch the video because the oldest son has blonde hair in the video and has like an entire sequence of scenes of him just like shirtless and singing into the camera.
Yeah, it's a really bad video. But
it's terrible.
It's a good song.
But yeah, because of that, that's why his nickname is K-pop, and then the could-be son, his nickname is Stan, because when he first meets him in the story, he's like, oh, are you a Korean celebrity with those good looks and that hot body?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay. So that's their nickname. And then the second nickname you're not going to get because I don't actually get it myself. So the second nickname I did Bruce and Wayne. So the second son is Bruce and his roommate is Wayne. Bruce Wayne, Batman. I don't know why, but for some reason they just made me think of Batman.
Why not Batman and Robin?
I didn't go Batman and Robin just because Robin is super young, and I think that's something that kind of needs to be addressed at some point.
That's true, but like Bruce and Wayne, they're the same person.
They are, except for like one's the first name, one's the last name. So I just like whatever. But if you can think of a better nickname, I will go with it.
I'm just gonna call them B couple.
Okay, so B couple, and then the last one. The last couple, the college couple, my nickname for them were Denny and Mark. Because the third son is actually half Danish, I think, and he was born in Denmark. And so that's why I named them Denny and Mark.
Okay.
I'm fucking awful.
Yeah.
I really am.
Just because it's Father's Day doesn't mean you need to make Father's Day jokes.
All of my dads are dead. Sorry. So, yeah, I really liked the story that was like not super discussed, but was very much hinted at in a lot of flashback scenes. So, not talking about the romance between the sons. At the very start of the series, the oldest son is kidnapped by the second uncle of the family. Mm-hmm. That storyline is dropped immediately after the first episode.
Yeah.
And I was like, but wait a minute, what can we go back to that? Because I would like to know more about why your uncle would kidnap his nephew. Like, what the fuck is going on? Mm-hmm. So that's there. Then there's the whole tale between all of the mothers and the father.
Yeah.
So like the oldest one, his mother died, but we don't know what part the father played. But in the first episode, the son says, it's your fault my mother died. And you're like, what's the involvement here? Mm-hmm. Then the mother of Stan, K-pop and Stan, his mother apparently was the woman that the father left the oldest son's mother for, because in the flashback scene, he's like, I'm divorced now, we can be together. But they had been together since she was 17, or since they were 17. Mm-hmm. So was she like the side woman? Was she the mistress? Like, I would like to know more about that.
Yeah.
Then she runs off. We don't know who her partner was when she got pregnant. Like, there's so much stuff going on there. We don't know who Stan's dad is.
Well, it seems like she was pregnant with the rich guy's son, and she said, I won't have your kid. And it's like, oh, did she get an abortion?
Okay, question about that. Because when the father was looking at the birth certificate, he's like, according to the months, this is my son. So if the DNA test says that that's not his son, then what child did she get rid of? Did she get rid of a child by him back when they were still actively dating each other? Or
I'm wondering if the timeline is just weirdly tight, and it kind of doesn't make sense. So I wonder if it's just really tight where she, after she had her abortion with the kid from fucking rich guy, she like immediately just gets pregnant by her new boyfriend that she's been seeing. But that doesn't make too much sense. But it's interesting. I'm interested in the backstory of everyone, because you get nuggets and you're like, wait, what? And you're like,
right. So
forward.
Like, all of that I need to know about. Also the fact that the dad has control of the mother's resort in Busan. So the oldest son, he grew up in Korea. He speaks a little bit of Chinese, a little bit of Taiwanese, but he mostly speaks Korean throughout the show. And he came back to Taiwan to try to get his dad to give back control of the hot springs resort that belongs to his mother's family. And the dad's like, I've been secretly funneling $30 million to this resort every year, which if the dad is actually doing that, I don't know why this resort would be failing, because that's a huge amount of profit. But anyway, I digress. How did the dad end up with control of the mother's resort? Because apparently the mother's father is still alive because he's on the phone with his grandfather when he lands in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to know more about that. How did the dad get the resort? Why did it not fall back to the grandfather? Like, what the fuck happened there? Then the second son, his mother divorced the father because the father was cheating with the third son's mother.
Mm-hmm.
So what the fuck happened there? Like, was she pregnant and that's why they divorced? Did she get pregnant right after the divorce? She refuses to divorce her husband because she wants to secure her son's inheritance, even though the second wife, she doesn't seem to have that same problem. She freely divorced him and her son's inheritance is secured. So was there some suspicion that that wasn't his child? Like, I have so many questions about this family dynamic, and I could watch a whole show about that.
Absolutely. I feel like there's not too much to say about Because of You because it's just solid. There's good dynamics. There's a good bones there. And I just want more. It kind of reminds me of Trapped. Like, if I were to make this full, I would kind of do a Trapped thing.
Yes.
I would organize it, though, is so if we're doing 10 episodes, episode 5, K-pop and Stan, that's when they have their beach moment and they're together. And then the last few episodes are kind of figuring out some more of the backstory with, you know, K-pop and all of his Busan stuff. And then the last few episodes, we give a bigger focus to the other two couples.
Yes, because I would like to know more about what was going on between Bruce and Wayne. Because every time Wayne would be with Thirst Trap, Bruce would get like outrageously jealous.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I understand because Thirst Trap is like giving people hickeys and just being a wild person. And so
showers too, just like, hey, can I borrow your shampoo? And she thinks it's her brother's shower. She like walks into the shower thinking it's her brother, butt ass naked, washing his balls, and is like, can I borrow the shampoo? Like, bitch, get out.
And then when she realizes it's not her brother, she decides to have a conversation with a naked man who is not related to her.
Being like, hey, your body's real fine.
Yeah, like her brother had to literally pull her the hell out of like, hey, sis.
Yeah.
This is inappropriate. But yeah, like I would like to know more about that. I would like to know kind of about the friendship between the two college students for sure, especially because the sister of Mark, the not related one, she is related to Wayne out of Bruce Wayne. They're cousins-in-law.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to know more about that relationship circle. It's weird how everybody in this entire story has some connection with one another through family. Right. So I kind of want to know more about that. But yeah, with Bruce and Wayne, they've been together for years. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he's like, my family owns you, I kind of want to know where that phrase came from because it was one of those moments where like my mouth flew open like, oh, I can't believe you said that. Mm-hmm. So like, why are you saying my family owns you? Because he's like, I feed you, I clothe you, my family owns you. Did you lend this guy some money? Did you help out his family from a bind? Also, let's talk about bi representation for a minute. I love the fact that it's like, it's never just like I'm gay or anything like that. Like there's at least two characters like I will just be with anybody I want to be with. Mm-hmm. And that sometimes happens in a story where you'll have like one character who's like, you know, I'm just with whoever I want to be with. Very rarely do you have two characters saying I will just be with whoever I want to be with. And that conversation happens between K-pop and Stan on his motorcycle where he's like, I want to be free to love whoever I want to. And K-pop's like, so man or woman? He's like, yeah, doesn't matter to me. So do you want to love me? Sure, why not? Mm-hmm. It's just like, wow, that is refreshingly candid.
Yeah, well, because it's tiring when it's like the I've only dated girls, but I just like you for you. It's like, come on, y'all. Are they gay? Is it bi? Like, I feel like I hate when Thai dramas do that. So I like that they like confirm that some characters were just bi. Because that's good. Yeah. Like, a lot of people don't think bisexuality is like a thing. I think it's fake. So I like that they did that.
Yeah, and then like when K-pop was needing advice from Wayne, he's like, I heard you're bi. He's like, I may be bi, but that doesn't mean I just fuck anybody. Which
Right.
again, clarification, because a lot of people do think that bi people are just an excuse to be promiscuous.
Right, because a lot of bisexuality represented in media is like they're the slutty McSlutterson, you know? Like they're fucking everyone that walks. And it's like, that's not how this works.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought that was like, oh gosh, it just, there was so much good here, but you know, leave it to Taiwan, because honestly, almost everything I've seen out of Taiwan when it comes to boys love content has been A1 grade A quality content.
Yep, and it not only is the story good and the acting is good, but the production value is always amazing. Like shit just looks visually good.
Yeah, like homes that you're like, I would like to go through a house tour before we go on to the rest of the plot.
Yeah.
There's a hot spring in the backyard. Show me more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, Taiwan they have it. So like, if I could suggest anything, just give us longer episodes, a couple more episodes maybe, but like take it from your 15 minutes that you're giving us and give us a full 40.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's just, there's so much that can be told.
Right.
I want to see dates between K-pop and Stan. Like, it was really nice to see them when they like lived together and they were doing breakfast and everything else. But I want to see them go on dates. I want to see him take him back to Busan to meet the grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I think it's pretty obvious our scores are high. I'm giving it a solid 8 for Because of You, almost an 8.5.
I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
Okay. Yeah, I really, really liked it. But yeah, I was really glad that we watched these because, you know, sometimes you just don't have time to devote hours and hours to watching these shows. Now, me and Mason, if the show is on YouTube, we tend to watch it at like 1.5 speed. If it's pretty boring, I'll sometimes watch it at 1.75 speed. But even then, it's still a time investment because you're having to skip through commercials and all this other stuff, and it still takes time. So sometimes you do need these short series that just kind of give you that like endorphin boost, and then you can move on with your day. And having a series that takes you an hour, hour and a half, like sometimes that's just a great way to like, I'm happy now, and just keep it moving. So, I mean, I'd highly recommend these short tales. The other two I'm recommending, I've already mentioned them. Viki has The Novelist and The Pornographer. It is a Japanese boys' love. I watched both. The order that I would recommend watching it is watching The Pornographer first and then watching The Novelist. But they're completely connected stories. And it's a little seedy. It's a little tawdry. It's a little nasty. But at the same time, it was very addictive for me personally. And there's another short series that's starting that's on Viki, and it is Life Love on the Line, which is another Japanese boys love, and it has its first episode on there right now. It's a short series based on a manga, which you can find on the internet somewhere. But I went back to check because of my drama list, and apparently Wayne will have a cameo in the show. So he doesn't have a role in the show. He has a cameo. And I was going back to the manga to try to figure out where his cameo is. I think he's going to be an actor on one of the shows that one of the lead character writes, because one of the lead characters becomes a script writer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think that's where that's going to be.
Wayne.
Oh, me too. Fucking Wayne, I love you. Country boy, I love you.
What a good vine.
So now it's time to get to the part of the show where we either shoot the shit or we do the Instagram of the day. Instagram of the day, I don't really have one for you. I'm so sorry, because I need to talk about all the people I'm going to be unfollowing on Instagram. Let's talk about how GMM TV has ruined my fucking week. So, Monday, we start to hear rumblings of some problems with Kristen Singto. And I'm like, what did the babies do? What could possibly be the problem?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, Chris had a few internet detectives go through footage and realized that he's made a lot of very inappropriate social gaffes. One of them, the first being that during a live stream, I guess a fan asked, "Are you gay?" And he said, "Gay my ass." And it came across as super aggressive and frankly homophobic.
Yep.
Then somebody went back to his Facebook past before he became a star about 3 years ago, and somebody, I guess, criticized the military in Thailand, which I think the military is like really closely aligned with the king of Thailand. And long story short, there's a lot of laws that prohibit what you can and can't say about the monarchy in Thailand. And so his response to this person's Facebook post was, "Lao, you're a stupid bastard, shut your mouth." Lao being a reference to Laos, which is a country, and basically how in Taiwan or in Thailand, sometimes people use the names of countries as insults to people, like kind of like calling you dumb by saying you're a person from that country. So that's racist. No other way to put that. And then there was the combined gaffe with Singto and Chris. They were doing a live stream together, and I guess there was a filter involved with whatever video streaming software device, whatever they were using, and it caused it to where Singto being kind of further in the background, like let's say Singto is this backpack, whatever the camera focus was, it was blurry back here, and Singto's like, "Oh, I'm blurry, I look like a rape victim on TV." And Chris is like, "Oh, you be the rape victim and I'll be the interviewer." And it was just like, sexual assault is a very traumatic thing that happens to a lot of people, and it's not really a premise for a joke that is highly insensitive. So,
And one more thing that Chris did that I didn't like that I saw was on Instagram. I don't know when it was. Someone posted like a screenshot of like he was doing like answering questions on Instagram, and one of them was, "Are you gay?" And he goes, his face is like, and it's no in all caps and like a bunch of angry face emojis. And I'm like, that's real homophobic, dude. Like you built your career off of playing a gay character, but like, I mean, go off.
so I will say this, and I know that you're not going to agree with me on this. I almost get Chris' reaction to being constantly asked if he's gay, because people who are fans of these boys love couples, they are relentless. Like when it comes to the fetishization of these boys love couples, people don't see it as being like, "Oh, you guys acted on a show, that was fun, let's go on to the next project." There are a lot of people who invest a lot monetarily and a lot of time in these ships. And so they do fan meets where they'll have fans pay for admittance and buy a certain number of products so that they can get high touches and all this other stuff. Kristen Singto, if you go to the eThai CD website, they sell merch. They sell calendars, they sell products, they sell all kinds of things. Their ship is a marketing tool for them. The problem with that is, of course, when you're selling a romance that doesn't exist and you're using your real names, people are going to be like, "Are you gay? Are you gay for each other? Do you love each other? Is it real?" And I think, especially with Chris doing so many straight Lockhorns lately, he probably is tired of being asked if he's gay when he's probably said before that he's not, and that, you know, him and Kristen Singto share a friendship, not a romance. But at the same time, you have chosen to actively market this ship.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like this is happening and you guys aren't doing anything to fuel the speculation or anything to fuel the conversation. You guys are selling backpacks with your faces on them. You guys are selling literally picnic blankets with your likeness on them. And it says Kristen Singto on the bottom. And you're selling calendars and you're doing CFs and you guys are writing notes to each other on Instagram and all this stuff. You know, I'm not saying that you aren't entitled to make your money, But if you can't handle people asking you these questions, then quit using gay as a marketing device for yourself and a way to promote yourself in the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I get frustration. I absolutely get that. But at the same time, you kind of put yourself in this position when you sold yourself as this couple.
I get frustration in being asked a question you've answered before, but it feels like he's frustrated with being asked if he's gay and that he really doesn't want to be associated as gay. And it just, honestly, it's really sad because it's not even like kind of homophobic. It's like pure, like that's just some homophobic shit right there. And it was recent too. So it's not like
I know it's recent. I'm not saying it's old. And that's why I say, like, the fact that they continue to do it. If this was a question that was asked around the time that SOTUS first started airing on screen, I would be like, okay, that's really an out-of-pocket response because the show is currently airing. You're currently portraying this character. This is crazy. But SOTUS, I believe, aired, 3 years ago?
Uh-huh.
And so if these are recent, which I believe that they are, for the last 3 years, you have been selling Chris and Cinto as a ship.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're tired of the questions, you've had 3 years to quit doing this. You guys did SOTUS in 2017. You came back and did SOTUS S, I think, in 2018. And now we're in 2020. And you guys are still doing commercials together. You guys are still going on GMMTV and doing Zoom lunches together. You're still doing stuff together. If you're tired of the question, quit promoting the ship. You can be friends without promoting the ship.
Mm-hmm. It's disappointing.
It is.
I don't know what to say. Like that one disappointed me, and to find that out the same time with like the rape joke, which is just such a tone deaf joke. Like it's not even a joke. It was just tone deaf and insensitive, and it bothers me that people are like, well, they apologize, so why do you care? And I'm like, that's not a good apology. And like, I think it just shows like, we've seen a lot of rape and sexual assault in Thai dramas before, and we've even talked about articles we've read about it. It just goes to show that like, that's still a thing that needs to be addressed in Thailand, and I don't really know how to fix that because I'm in America, and honestly, our president's a rapist, so what can I say about it too, you know?
I mean, I feel like because I didn't vote for him, I'm allowed to share my critique. So I will. But I will say this. Yes, that is not our country. So it is very hard for us to critique the behaviors that they have because there is a different standard that society has in that country that varies from ours. You know, it's just like in Korea when K-pop stars get caught smoking marijuana. In America, it would not be a big deal at all. In Korea, it is a massive deal.
Right.
So there is something to be said for like cultural norms, cultural values. But I also, again, I feel like you have a different level of accountability when you get your livelihood from something. And then with the rape thing, you have an audience of really young women. And a lot of these young women are in a time of their life where either they have had to confront sexism and rape culture, or they're going to be confronting it. And when guys that they admire, that they follow, that they have really strong feelings for, say that it's a joke, then when the time comes when they've either had to confront it or they've already confronted it and they're having to deal with the way they feel about themselves, they're getting the reinforcement that it's a joke. And there is a problem in Thailand with the way that rape is portrayed. I mean, we haven't talked about it yet because we haven't gotten there, but when the time comes for us to talk about Love by Chance and Tharn Type, we really have to talk about how rape is not a device to romance.
Right.
It is not it's not the thing that turns the emotional train around.
Right.
But Mame, who really could kiss my ass, has used that plot device multiple times over multiple books with multiple characters.
He seems to really like that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And it's just like, you have an ability to really write a good story. Why does this have to be the plot device?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and And it's vicious rape. It's not even just like, oh, I was drunk last night and, you know, I slept with you and I totally intended to sleep with you, but if I was sober, I would have made different decisions. That's still rape. But, you know, it's like, okay, well, you made a bad decision. This is aggressive rape. Like, it is like the classic definition that most people think of when they think of rape. Like, what happens to Tar in Tharn Type, he is gang raped by a group of men, and the gang rape is videotaped. And that's never resolved, even though they know who orchestrated the rape. And that person knows who participated in the rape and has evidence about the rape happening. Everyone should be behind bars at this point. And it's just left like, oh, we all do bad things when we're younger. Don't worry about it. Forgive yourself, kid. Like, no. And then I read the book for Kinkla and No and their storyline for Love by Chance 2, and it's absolutely disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
At one point, Kinkla puts a homing device in No's backpack so that he can just randomly show up at places where No is at. He pays his brother to lie and set up scenarios where he can sexually accost No. Like, it is beyond disgusting. And this woman is making thousands of dollars on these storylines that, you know, are more than inappropriate.
Yeah, I really hope season 2 does a better job and maybe doesn't do some of those stuff, but I doubt it because I think she has a really heavy hand in how her adaptations are done.
Well, I think I told you how they resolve the problem in the book. Kinkla handwrites 21 notes to No, saying, like, this is the truth about all the lies I told you. I really love you.
Yeah, that ain't it.
No forgives him 14 days into these 21 notes.
Nope. It couldn't be me. Couldn't be me.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolute. Fuck out of here.
And I love No. He was so good in Tharn Type, but he does not deserve that. Also, speaking of Love by Chance 2, I'm very sus about watching it anyways because Perth, Mean, and the guy who plays Can can, you know, all three of them can fuck off. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because Mean is a friend of Talay, and I really sincerely hope that Talay does not share Mean's opinion about Boys Love being a vehicle to not having to do Boys Love anymore. But you never know. They're all celebrities, and celebrities can disappoint. But yeah, there's so many negatives going into season 2 of Love by Chance that I know this is going to sound awful. I kind of only want to watch the show to find out what happens between Tum and Tar. Even though they're stepbrothers, so that doesn't really make it much better at all. But I do want to find out, like, you know, does Tar ever find healing? Right. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, does this kid ever get over his obvious panic attacks and everything else as a result of the PTSD of his sexual assault?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm going to read some apologies here because I have Chris' apology and I have Cinto's apology. So I'm going to let you guys judge for yourself how you feel about this. So the first apology is from Chris regarding the rape joke. So he says, first of all, this is a story that has happened before, but whatever that is, I made myself. Even though how much time has passed is what I do and I was really wrong to do it. Guys, this is a translation. It's not native English, so you're going to have to work with me on this. The story happened about 4 years ago. At that time, it's alive with P. Cinto, me and my friends like to tease, so I responded with a little thought, really unaware. I was wrong. Sorry, there's a kid crying in the hallway outside here, and it's super loud. I apologize. At the time, it was alive with P. Cinto, me and my friends like to tease, so I responded with a little thought, really unaware. I was wrong at the time and should not really use that word. I can choose better words too, but I was unconscious and unknowable. After the incident, I was warned and get real lessons. I want to tell everyone, many already, that everyone has warned on Twitter. The birthday of that day has been a year since I was warned. I genuinely absorb it. I feel disappointed with myself and very ashamed, but I'm confident from that day to today, I never say it again. I don't even say Fong. I don't add it to any other words. So that was his apology for the rape joke, which bad translation, honestly, but also it just kind of like, I don't say that anymore. It doesn't really address why it was problematic. It just says, I don't do that anymore. So next, this is apology for the homophobia and the racial slurs. And the important thing is that many people tell me that I'm not proud of where I was born at all. Famous as the hero from Y series Sodas. At that time, the story occurred. I know this already, and I'm very sorry since then, but the regret I said is sorry for myself, as I said, although we have another type of earthenware, but we lost consciousness and spoke like that. Other people might don't think like us. I'm really wrong. I'm really sorry for what happened. So that was his apology about the homophobic slurs. Then the apology about the louse insult. This is the full offense that I say. The words that everyone warned me of today. I was already warned that day, and since that day, I never said that word in a negative sense. I can confirm that I never say it again. I have to really apologize to the people of Laos and Laos. As people say bully Laos, I'm really sorry. On that day, I lost consciousness because I wanted to protect something. But anyway, I'm wrong whether today or tomorrow. If this issue is raised again, I am ready to apologize again. So basically it's, I was wrong. I wasn't thinking when I said it. I won't say it again. Mm-hmm. But it never really acknowledges like why it was a problem that you said this thing.
Right.
So now I'm going to read Singto's because at the very minimum, even though I'm still very disappointed in Singto, I feel like he kind of grasped what an apology is a little bit better.
Right.
Okay. So let's see here. From the incident where I made a rape joke, I have no excuse to justify myself, and I would like to be responsible for what I have done. The incident happened from my carelessness that I didn't concern of how my words can create pain in the hearts of people and affect the society. I would like to sincerely apologize to the victims and those beloved people who are close to the victims. From my apology this time, I am not asking for any chance from everyone to forgive me. I only want everyone to know that I had no intention of making fun of the victims. I cannot turn back to fix the past where I made a mistake. At present, I would like to use my own media to apologize and show my responsibility for what I have done and for everyone to know. I would like to apologize to the fans, friends, and everyone for always supporting me. I once said that I want to be an inspiration and a role model for people, but as I cannot be anyone's role model anymore from now on, I would like this incident to be a lesson for me, myself, and everyone that making fun of rape shouldn't be seen as normal in society. I would like to apologize for disappointing everyone. And when I look back to what I have done, I am disappointed in myself and disgusted for what I have done as well. I am aware of this mistake and will grow up with maturity. I would like to apologize again. So it is a much better apology. It's not perfect by any means, but he does acknowledge the victims of rape, which Chris never does. Mm-hmm. He also explains that, I'm not expecting you to forgive me. I'm apologizing without the expectation of forgiveness. And that's also really important because a lot of people will apologize just to get forgiveness. And if that's why you're apologizing, are you actually sorry?
Right.
So there's those. Now, new. Last week, me and Mason filmed a love letter to Dark Blue Kiss.
Yep.
And we talked glowingly about how it was a great example of queer representation in media and, great storyline. Would love to see more of. I personally said I didn't see it for Tay and New, but that's something else. Apparently, New made a joke or I don't know, something about like how, I'm being retarded, something to that point.
Mhm.
And it's just like, we don't do that. We don't do that.
I also don't think you should say that even as like a, well, he said it kind of thing.
Well, I'm not saying it because I believe that it should be said, but I mean, you have to understand what it was that he said. We can't address the issue if people don't know what the issue is.
I do, but you could just say the R word, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
I guess so. So, lesson learned. So, he says this, and I'll be honest, I don't think that it surfaced independently. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't think it was one of those things where, oh, this was also kind of out there at the same time, independent. I'm not saying that somebody is going after GMM actors to like slander their name, but I do think once one person gets in trouble and then a second person gets in trouble, people start examining the whole group, which is natural. I mean, it's absolutely natural because so many times these GMM TV actors are packaged as a group. So if there's a fan meet, it'll be like, we're going to have Afghan and Tainu and Chris Singto, and they're all going to be there. So I think at the time that this came up, people were looking at the other actors and seeing if they had made any gaffes. And so New using, I don't even know if you could say it's the R word though, because I feel like it was probably said in Thai, and so I don't know what the equivalent is.
Right.
But obviously an insult to people. Well, basically referencing that people who have mental challenges, that's a way to kind of classify yourself when you're being dumb. A comparison, which is not a fair or accurate comparison. So that comes out at the same time all the Chris stuff comes out and the Singto stuff comes out. And New doesn't respond for a couple of days. And when he finally does respond, he responds in English. And I want to say that very clearly because this is not a translation. This is not a guess. This is him in English. Also, I do believe that New is biracial. So I think that English is a language that he speaks fairly fluently. So that's why he wrote this in English on his Instagram.
As a reply to someone else's thing.
As a reply to a comment that somebody else made about his silence towards addressing this. Yeah, he says, I am sorry that I make you disappoint. I don't know what's happening because I work outside GMM lately and people around me don't talk about this. I also hardly use Twitter anymore. I work from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. for a few weeks now without time to rest during every shooting. And when I do, I try to share pictures and didn't read comments. I don't even have time to chat. Now I know about the comment I made about IQ before. Please keep in mind that jokes about my stupidness and talk about IQ is not equal insult mentally challenged people. If my careless joke is not funny, I apologize for my thoughtless behavior, but it wasn't my intention at all. I also donate my income to charity for mentally challenged every year without the need to make it public. That's why I know how they call them, politely use this word. So it's impossible that I look down on them. I do joke inappropriately without thinking carefully sometimes, and it causes upset feeling. But I find it too extreme to completely label my ignorant joke equal I am a person who looks down on mentally challenged people.
What a bad statement. It's bad, like, oh, well, I'm busy, so I didn't know. First of all, bullshit. Second of all, I don't believe that no one in your management team saw what was going on and was like, let's not tell him. Like, I'm sure he heard from friends, family, and other people about this. Second of all, saying, well, I donate to charity, that's like saying, well, it doesn't matter if I said the N-word, I have a black friend. It's like, that. Well, that's not how that works either. So, what a weird statement, because it's not even an apology. It's like
it's a defense.
Yeah, and not a good defense either.
Yeah, it's like, I can't possibly be biased towards mentally challenged people because I give money to mentally challenged people. If you replaced it with, the N-word, I can't possibly be racist. I have black friends. I give to black charities. That's not the equivalency here. It isn't. Sorry, it's not. there are people who have mentally challenged people in their family, and they still make jokes about mentally challenged people. There are people who have Black people in their family and still are racist. You know, it's one of those things where just because you're adjacent does not mean that you are free of any kind of bias.
Right.
And so it was the worst response. It was the worst kind of apology. It was absolute trash. And, you know, Chris' apology was bad. But he didn't try to say, well, you know, I can't possibly be homophobic. I work around a bunch of gay people. Like, he didn't try to make that excuse.
Right.
Singto, again, his apology was better because he acknowledged the group that he offended. But what New said is a lesson in PR nightmares. Don't write your own statements, kids. Hire a professional.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that Singto probably hired a professional.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah. So my Instagram of the week is a list of people to unfollow. So take that for what you will. And that's coupled on top of, you know, the sexual assault allegations against Ansel Elgort and the one guy from 5 Seconds of Summer. It's just, it is rough out here in these social media streets. Be wise, be warned. But it is especially appalling for this to happen around these three because they represent some of the best shows that Thailand has to offer when it comes to boys love. Dark Blue Kiss, even with all of this, is still an amazing show.
Right.
Sodas, even with all this, is still an amazing show.
Yeah.
And so it is more unfortunate because now when you watch these shows, it comes with the asterisk, by the way, this is the social history of these particular actors in this show, and this is the reason why you need to be aware. And it just fucking sucks that we can't have nice things. It really is. Like, these are top 5 shows, guys. We're not talking about, you know, shows we kind of like. We're talking about top 5 shows. And for me, as Mason will tell you, we're talking about, like, top 2 actors for me personally. I love Singto. It's Singto and Ohm. Those are my guys. And this is devastating. So what we've talked about before, we talked about it in early on in our live stream live. We talked about the fact that even though BL is a moneymaker in Thailand, they do not hire gay actors. Gay actors are few and far between when it comes to the actors who actually portray characters in boys' love shows. Now, there are a few not necessarily boys' love shows that are more like adult-oriented shows that have gay actors who play gay characters. But for the most part, when it comes to the shows that are marketed as boys' love, casting directors specifically try to cast straight men. Now, I don't know if it's because they have that outdated idea that gay men are promiscuous and possibly something sexual could come out of the woodwork later on. If it is because of, honestly, hatred towards the gay community, or if it's because they want to have people that they feel can appeal to the girls. And if the girls knew that the actor was gay, they wouldn't be as invested in the story because they need to be able to build their sexual fantasy around the actor. And so that's how you have these bad actors come into the industry. Like, you can talk about it better than I can, but you remember the story with God from 2 Moons.
I actually don't.
Oh, okay. So there's like behind the scene footage of when they're filming these shows. And Gott, who played the lead in 2 Moons, he played, is it Fa? Is that the character's name?
Fauna? Yeah.
Yeah, Fauna. He played Fauna. And then there was one kissing scene in all of 2 Moons.
It was literally the last shot of the show was they kiss.
Yeah. They showed it behind the scenes. After they had their kiss, God turns around and spits and wipes his mouth.
Ooh, I didn't see that.
And it's like, if you're that damn disgusted over one fucking ass kiss, why did you sign up for this show? It's one kiss, my guy. It's not even a tongue kiss. It is a closed mouth kiss. The fuck? But it's a tool. It is a tool. It is a way to manipulate old bitches like me, young girls, gay men, to spend money, give attention, give social media likes and mentions, and use us for clout, but not really invest in the community.
Right.
So in a time of, social awareness kind of sweeping the world and everyone talking more about these issues, there is a real need for gay actors to be brought into the boys love scene and to not be punished for being out.
Right.
Kuhart should have more roles. Fluke should have more roles. But this is a prime example of why you need to have the community involved in media aimed at the community. Because these are the assholes you get behind the scenes. So depressing. It's so upsetting. Like, seriously. I'm so angry. Also, if you have a family member who is mentally challenged or you are a mentally challenged person, I do want to reiterate, I didn't say the R word to be insensitive to you. I really was trying to recap what New had said, but I understand where even the mention of the word can be hurtful. So I do apologize for that, and I'll try to be more cognizant in the future. So Mason, I hate to bring it back to Lightville, but manga recommendation of the week.
So I don't have one because I think there's a lot of really cool stuff happening in the gay community this week that I think I'd rather spotlight. So there is Black Queer Town Hall happening this weekend, and I think you can still watch the videos. Basically, Bob the Drag Queen and Peppermint both were on RuPaul's Drag Race and are just like queer icons. They started Black Queer Town Hall to talk about the Black queer experience and to educate people and to share, Black voices. So they got Alex Newell, MJ Rodriguez, and a lot of other really cool people. And it's currently happening, I think it's at 3 p.m. California time, 6 p.m. New York time today. And then there was one yesterday and one on Friday as well. So I recommend you take a watch and watch that. There's also been a Black Drag Town Hall in Chicago specifically that's online for how the Chicago drag community needs to be better to their Black queens. So I think that's a good one to watch as well. So watch those.
We're coming in closer towards the end of Pride Month, and one thing I saw online, which I'll let you speak more about it, Mason, because I feel like I'm not really the best person to speak on it. I've seen a little bit of conflict between white gays and kind of the focus on Black Lives Matter during Pride Month. There was one tweet in particular that this person, who I don't know them, but Tarian retweeted it. It was a white man saying, this is our month, and I'm sorry, but Juneteenth is not a thing. You guys have your own month. And I'm just the only thing I can say about that is I lived in Texas for many years. I lived in Texas for close to 25 years. And in my time in Texas, for all that time, Texas was pretty much the only state that the Black people in it celebrated Juneteenth. And they celebrated Juneteenth because June 19th, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, is when Black people in Texas were notified that slavery was over. And so for 155 years, Black people in Texas have been celebrating Juneteenth. So it's not a new thing. It was something that existed before Pride had its own month. And I feel like in this time, in this space, there's room for all of us to request our rights. It doesn't have to be, well, now it's my turn. because
Yeah.
intersectionality is a thing. There's Black gay men. This is also their month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's definitely a big racism talk that's going on in the gay community right now, because a lot of white gays are just as racist and sexist too, which I think is also an important factor. Just as racist and sexist as a lot of like cis straight males. So yeah, the guy with that tweet that Tara retweeted, I also retweeted, because he was like, you know, fuck Juneteenth, it's our month, co-sign the gays. And I was like, no, I'm not co-signing this bill, asshole. Like, first of all, we can do both. Second of all, there's a human rights issue right now. Third of all, there's Black gay people. Fourth of all, Black trans people gave you your rights as a gay man, so fuck you for that one too. And I don't understand why people just can't have both. Like, you can celebrate both this month. And what? It doesn't take away from gay pride. I think it enhances gay pride. So there's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. And people need to do better and speak up and speak out against it as often as they see it. There's even been huge talk about it. I mentioned Drag Race a lot. I'm a really big Drag Race fan, if you can't tell, but there's been queens that would say how they would be at a meet and greet with a bunch of other girls from Drag Race, and the Black queens were asked to step out of the photo, so then the white queens would then take a picture with the fan. And our fans would ask the Black queens to step out of the photo, which is racist, it's horrible, and it's honestly shame on the white drag queens that didn't say anything. Shame on them for not saying anything. And shame on them for still not saying anything about it, even after it's come out, you know? So, yeah, white gays are really in their feelings about it. I saw a comic made where the guy's like, I don't even want to watch the news anymore because everyone's just dividing, and there's just a big divide right now, and I just want love. I just want love during Pride Month. And it's like,
I mean, revolutions happen when revolutions happen. The timing is never great.
Yeah, and it's like the divide is racist versus non-racist. So when you're saying you don't want to be a part of the divide, you're siding with the racists, and it's like, is that what you want to promote? Probably not. Hopefully not. Maybe you do, because maybe you just are a racist. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, I'm not the best person to talk about it, but in my time being friends with gay people, working at a gay bar, having awareness of gay media, there's always been kind of an emphasis on white male gayness.
Absolutely.
When people talk about LGBTIA+,
mm-hmm.
they are talking about white gay men. So it's to the exclusion of Black gay men. It's to the exclusion of trans men and women of all colors. It's to the exclusion of even lesbians, whose letter is first.
Yeah.
And go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, even I was watching, I haven't finished the Chicago town hall yet, but one of the things that a lot of the queens were asking for was play Black music. You know, how a lot of the clubs will be like, they'll play the white pop singers, but they won't play any rap and they won't play any R&B because it doesn't fit for their clientele that they're going for, which is just racist. They want the white people. That's what they're saying when they say that. And how the Black drag queens will be like, oh, I'd love to be a part of Gaga night, but then they won't be a part of Gaga night. They'll be shoehorned into Beyonce night only. And it's like, because that's the Black night. Beyonce night's the Black night, but every other day of the week, you know, it's the white nights. And that needs to be changed. Like now. They can change that now.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, as a person who grew up in the 80s and 90s and 2000s and stuff, I've had kind of a front seat to the way that the media has changed their opinions about, you know, queerness in media and trying to have more positive representations. But it has felt like it has been a change geared towards white gay men. And it's high irony that like someone like Gaga could become a gay icon, Ariana Grande being a baby gay icon, when, you know, Ariana, her singing style and this is not a read, her singing style is very much modeled after Mariah Carey, a Black woman.
Yeah.
When Gaga's dance-influenced first few singles are very much modeled after dance music that started in gay clubs, and early dance music featured the vocals of Black women.
Right.
You know, and so it's just like, we want Black culture when it's time to have fun, but we would like it to be as whitewashed as possible. Can we put another face in front of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hurtful. It's hurtful.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a gay person, but it is hurtful to me because, you know, I would like to be able to be an ally. But sometimes as a straight ally, I'm uncomfortable supporting the exclusion of other people of color from the movement.
Right. That's fair.
So.
Yeah. So, honestly, real talk, it's on me and the other white gays to do better, because we're the ones that started it, so we're the ones that can fix it. Really. So, you know, I hope other people are starting to listen.
I hope so. I know that, gosh, what is her name now? Laverne Cox. She has a show on, or I guess it's a documentary on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
And it's a really good one about the examination of like trans representation in media. I highly recommend people watch it. But I think that as we move forward, it's not just about, oh, we want to see queer representation on TV, media, those kinds of things. We want to see a variety of that representation.
Right.
Just having the representation alone is not enough.
Right.
We want representation that is seamless. We don't want it to be that the talking point is, oh, this is an Indian lesbian, or this is a Hispanic asexual person. We want it to be that you are just a part of this world, just like everyone else is a part of this world. The movement really is to change the default. And so I hope that just like we're trying to make those strides here in America, and we are still very much behind where we need to be, I would love for those people in Thailand who are living the BL life that's being portrayed on television to see themselves and not just see a sanitized, whitewashed version of their lives, but to really see a real version of their life, to really see people who are a part of their community, not just behind the scenes directing and writing, but in front of the camera and being the main love interest and actually sharing stories that they can relate to, because that is them on the screen.
Right.
So, you know, that's my hope as we continue on with this journey, as we start to see more genuine representation out there rather than the facade of representation, which really is just a front for fantasy building.
Yeah. Agreed.
You guys got a lot from us. How long have we been talking now? 2 hours?
Almost. And right before this, we were like, we don't know how this one's going to go. We don't know if we'll have a lot to say, but I mean, there's a lot to talk about, and it's important to talk about it. So if you've stuck by this long, you know.
You're a real one.
You're a real one. And if it made you uncomfortable, good. It kind of should. But yes, let's talk about what we're watching next week.
Next week we're doing Given, because Mason has finally agreed to quit letting his desires be put in second place.
I've been wanting to watch Given since before we even started doing this. Like when we agreed that we were going to start doing this show, I was like, I want to watch Given so bad. I honestly don't even know if Sam's going to like it. I really don't. Because Sam's never watched an anime, and the pacing's really slow.
Who said I've never watched an anime before?
What anime have you seen?
I watched all of Black Butler. I watched all of what is the name of that? Kiss, Kiss, Fall in Love.
I watched all love. You there.
Yeah, so I've watched a couple of anime things, and I've watched a ton of Studio Ghibli movies.
That's surprising. I'm surprised you watched Black Butler, like both seasons.
I didn't watch the second season because the circus season I didn't watch because I tried to watch the first episode and I just wasn't a fan. But I did watch the first season, and I really, really liked it a lot. It was kind of icky because CL's very young, and there were some scenes of him, like, coming out of the bath, and it was like, Japan.
Oh, yeah, because it was going to be a boys' love, but then they changed it to a shonenai, which is basically just their term for queer baiting. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But Black Butler, I am surprised that shit's still going on, because that's like my generation.
I really liked the first episode, or not first episode, the first season of Black Butler. I thought it was really good, and I really liked the theme song, too. Great theme songs.
Yeah, the soundtrack was good for both seasons. I remember being good. I never saw the circus season 3, so I can't say.
But I need to watch Food Wars. I feel like Food Wars speaks to something deep inside my soul as a fat bitch. So
Food Wars is on Netflix. You can watch it now.
Yeah, so I need to make time to do it. You know, I've been boys loving it up. I really need to make time to watch it. But no, this is not the first anime I've ever watched. So I will gladly watch. It was just a thing where, like, anime is not my chosen area of expertise because, to be really real with you, there's so much anime that it is very hard, number one, to identify what you like, and number two, to then find what you like, because there's such a depth of field.
There's a lot.
Even if you are a person right now who decides, I would like to watch all of One Piece, you probably could not catch up ever.
Well, it depends how dedicated you are.
Like, if you said, I wanted to watch all the iterations, I want to watch all the side stories, I want to watch it all, it would take you a really long time to catch up, unless you're, like, making it your full-time 40-hour-week job. And so a lot of times that's very daunting for the newbie when it comes to anime, because you're like, I don't really know where to begin. I'm not sure how to say what I like because I need to see it first. And, you know, a lot of these series are multiple arc deals, side stories, everything else, multiple episodes, big spaces between season 1 and season 2, sometimes years worth of spaces.
I mean, I get that as, like, going into it, a lot of the popular ones definitely are multi-arc, but there is a huge amount of really good anime that's 12 episodes. Like, that
when
is
when you ask somebody to give you a recommendation, it's always like, well, what do you like? It's like, I don't really know. Well, then I don't know what to tell you.
Well, because if you don't know what type of story you like, how can I help you?
I understand that, but, like, just for instance, when I watched, why can't I think of the name of the fucking shit? Uran Host Club. When I watched Uran Host Club, it was really easy for me to identify that I would like it, because it was like, it's a school drama and it's funny. And I'm like, okay, I like funny, I like school, it'll be fine. But Black Butler, like, I caught that totally by accident. Like, it was just like,
but yeah, I'd say, like, well, I like Oran, and I'd be like, well, you need to watch Nichijou or Daily Lives of High School Boys, which are funny school comedies. And they're great.
Well, then we'll start working that into the show. We'll start working that into
none of those are boys' loves, though. Those are just animes.
Well, I understand, but I'm just saying, like, if there's more boys' love animes that we can work into the show, or, you know, happy ending, light yaois that we can put into the show, then I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
Because we're diverse around these parts. I'm in every country in Asia practically this week. I'm watching Korean boys love. I'm watching Taiwanese boys love. I'm watching Thai boys love. I'm watching Filipino boys love. Like, I'm out here. So why not Japan? Why not? I'm watching Japan too. So yeah, why not? I'm in these anime streets now.
I love anime. And I think I'm so excited for Given, but I also I think I've mentioned this a few times, that I'm not comfortable saying where I work on this channel, but I do work full-time in animation, and I went to school for it, which sounds very pretentious, but I do I feel like I have a better knowledge of critiquing something animated than something live action sometimes. So, I am going to be up in the crevices of Given, critiquing it next week. I'm so excited. But I love Given.
So weird.
Sam.
You're so...
Episode 9.
Why are you saying it's pretentious to say that I went to school for this and I do this full time? It's like somebody saying, not to sound pretentious, but I did go to culinary school and I am a full-time chef, so I have a little bit more to say about recipes. Well, Come on!
Because I think it is, I do hate when people are like, well, I am a lawyer, so I know about X, Y, and Z. When you're like in an argument with them, haven't you ever had that before where you saw like a discourse on Twitter or something and someone was like, well, I know about this because I went to school for it. And it's like, well, that doesn't, or being a professional doesn't necessarily mean that you're good at your job, you know?
I get it when the application isn't necessarily about that. Like if I'm having an argument with you, I don't need you to throw in that you've got a law degree. But I feel like in this particular application, that's not pretentious. It's just a fact.
But yeah, I'm so excited. Sam, after you watch episode 9, you have to call me and you have to tell me if you cried. Guys, if you watched Given, you know what episode 9 is, and you know that it's the one. It's the one.
I feel like every episode that we do, the more and more people know about what our friendship is. And if you have comments about it, like be kind, but also, do you feel like now you're one of our friends because you're being let in behind the scenes?
This has been a very behind the scenes episode.
Oh, absolutely.
Like this is like what we just like after we're done recording, we'll like shoot the shit for like a few hours afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
So this is that, which we probably should wrap up this recording. It's been a minute. All right, guys. I hope you have a good week. I hope you enjoyed this very long roller coaster of an episode. So yeah, join us next week when we talk about Given. You can watch it on Crunchyroll. You can watch it on Crunchyroll. And I think you can watch it without a Crunchyroll account. But if you have a Crunchyroll account, you can bypass commercials. So, yep. All right. Adios.
Bye.